Ever wonder what it's like to be the ultimate loner in a fantasy world? Meet Haruka, a guy with 0 friends, a bag of random junk, and a mission to survive. From goblin battles to magic mishaps, he's about to turn worthless into unstoppable. Are you ready for a wild adventure? Let's dive in. The story begins with Haruka, a boy hiding from a group of goblins who are busy preparing their meal. Trying to slip away unnoticed, Haruka accidentally snaps a tree branch, instantly drawing all the goblins' attention. He bolts, running as fast as he can. But as the goblins close in, Haruka smirks. He suddenly leaps into the air, revealing his trap a hidden pitfall. The goblins tumble straight into it, just as Haruka planned. He tosses off his hoodie, proudly admiring the trap he dug earlier. The scene shifts, showing he's been living alone in this strange world for a while. Cut to Haruka in a classroom, casually reading a manga during lunch break. He calls himself a loner, not just in this world, but in the regular one too. He divides his classmates into categories: the delinquents, gyrus, jocks, nerds, class reps, and everyone else. Naturally, he doesn't fit into any of these groups. Just as he rests his head on his desk, something strange happens. A mysterious circle starts glowing beneath him. Chaos erupts in the classroom, and Haruka opens his eyes to see the mayhem. At first, he's thrilled to see a magic circle, but then his face falls, remembering the harshness of other worlds. He tries everything, opening the door, windows, even kicking them, but they won't budge. Desperately, he hurls a chair at the door, realizing it's all a trap. As the magic circle starts teleporting his classmates, Haruka scrambles into the ceiling's air duct, only to be caught by the circle's reach and teleported anyway. Haruka finds himself in a strange white void. He expects to meet some overweight king or a beautiful princess, but instead, an old, confused-looking man with a white beard approaches him. Haruka assumes he must be the god of this new world. A massive wall of skills appears in front of him, and as Haruka gets ready to choose, all the valuable skills vanish, leaving behind only useless ones. Frustrated, he browses the leftover skills, growing more and more annoyed. He complains to the old man, who calmly waves his staff, shattering the skill wall. Suddenly, all the worthless skills pour into Haruka's status. He's then transported to a forest, where he finds a magical bag. To his surprise, the bag has unlimited storage. It's filled with random items, which Haruka calls leftovers. He picks out some gloves and a cloak, intrigued by their look. Haruka tries to check his status window, but instead, a message pops up instructing him to roll dice. He does, landing 2 MS. Panicking, he assumes the M means minus and dreads the worst. But when he checks his status, he discovers one of his skills is maxed out, meaning the M stands for max. Relieved, he continues exploring and notices 2 additional skills: living alone with no friends and unable to make friends. It dawns on him he's destined to be a loner, even in this new world. Determined to build his own house, Haruka ventures deeper into the forest. As the underbrush thickens, he grows uneasy, knowing he's defenseless if a monster shows up. He digs through his bag and finds a special lens that allows him to see the stats of everything around him. Haruka begins scouting the area, collecting mushrooms, which he stashes in his bag. Eventually, he finds a lake, happily drinking its water, and stumbles upon a nearby cave. Haruka tiptoes in, apologizing to any monsters that might live there, but finds it empty. Grinning, he claims it as his home and uses his temperature magic to light a fire before checking his stats again and drifting off to sleep. On day 2, Haruka wakes up, pleased to find no monsters attacked him overnight. Starving, he whips up a beef and mushroom meal, which turns out to be surprisingly tasty. After breakfast, he wonders what to do next and begins collecting supplies for his shelter. Suddenly, he senses movement. 2 goblins are nearby. He checks their stats with his lens, then readies himself for battle. His wooden stick glows with magical power, and Haruka launches himself at the first goblin, knocking it out with a blow to the head. The second goblin charges, but Haruka easily dodges and blasts it into a tree with magic. As the sun sets, Haruka reflects on his first victory and stumbles back to his cave, exhausted. He cooks mushrooms for dinner, checks his stats, and happily notices he's leveled up. By day 3, Haruka is sick of eating mushrooms for every meal but forces them down anyway. Stepping outside, he starts hunting for meat but finds nothing. Frustrated, he practices his magic instead, running so fast it feels like teleporting. He also sharpens his sword skills, easily defeating 2 goblins. Feeling confident, Haruka thinks he can take on 3 goblins, but when he faces them, they look stronger than expected. He wisely runs back to his cave, planning to hunt goblins by day and train his magic by night. On day 5, Haruka successfully takes down a goblin with a single strike and installs a door for his cave to keep out intruders. Later, he spots a rabbit and chases it for some much-needed meat, but just as he catches it, he hears a noise nearby. It turns out to be his classmates. Haruka hides, using his clairvoyant sight to check the surroundings. To his surprise, all the different groups from his class are scattered nearby. Among them is his crush, who's with the class rep group. Memories of his awkward past with her in first grade flood back. He almost approaches to say hi, but stops himself. He's chosen his path alone, free and determined to conquer this new world his way. Haruka quickly dives into the bushes, trying to hide from his friends who heard a noise and are now searching the area. One of his classmates grows suspicious and starts moving toward the bushes. Haruka feels his heart race, but just as the boy is about to check, a rabbit leaps out, startling him. Relieved, Haruka watches the group leave. The boys later gather near a river, and Haruka quietly listens in. They begin talking about inappropriate fantasies involving the class rep. Haruka, instead, thinks fondly of his crush, admiring how she's always managed class affairs since elementary school. Haruka then notices the boys have captured a student named Tanaka, who they've been using like a human search engine. When they finally leave, Haruka sneaks back to his hideout. He cooks mushrooms for dinner, yet again, and checks his stats. He's dismayed to see his loner level has increased, likely from avoiding his classmates. However, his overall skill level remains at 3, hindered by his lack of mastery in both jack-of-all-trades and dummy skills. Frustrated, he uses his Master of None skill, which allows him to transform his cave into a spectacular room. Though he still can't stay focused on one task for long, he sits down to eat his poorly cooked mushrooms. On the 7th day, a commotion wakes him up. Rushing outside, Haruka finds a group of nerds battling goblins. He activates his lens, analyzing their stats, and quickly realizes they're at a higher level than he is. Ready to jump in and level up, he suddenly senses danger. 2 more goblins are creeping up behind the nerds. Remembering his good times at school with them, he leaps into the fight, and with one strike of his stick, he takes down both goblins. The nerds are stunned to see Haruka there. While heading to Haruka's cave, the nerd group thanks him for saving them. Haruka welcomes them inside, and they're shocked to see a stunning, well-decorated room hidden within the cave. They marvel at the transformation, complimenting Haruka on his space. He offers them some juice and casually asks about the other classmates. Oda, one of the nerds, begins sharing his experience since reincarnating into this new world. Some classmates were amazed by the new reality, while others broke down in tears. Oda explains how their group was the first to figure out how to access the status window, while others remained frozen in disbelief. Just as things seemed to calm down, a group of goblins suddenly appears, ready to attack. Panic spreads among the class, including the delinquents and class reps, but the nerd group is the only one that steps up to fight. With the help of the jocks, they charge in and defeat the goblins in one swift move. Afterward, they all gather near a river to seek safety from further ambushes. The nerds take charge, using their isekai knowledge to help set up camps, while the class reps take over cooking and catching fish. For a while, everyone works together in harmony. However, after a few days, the class reps grow tired of their responsibilities and decide to leave. The vice rep tries to reason with them, but they ignore the plea and walk off. Soon after, the delinquent group follows, and their departure causes others to scatter as well, leaving the camp less united. From that point forward, only the class rep, the nerds, and a few others pulled their weight. The rest of the classmates just lazed around, while the nerd group was left to battle goblins on their own. Oda then told Haruka about the charm and puppeteer skills the delinquents had picked up in the White Room. The nerds grew suspicious, noticing the delinquents sneaking out at night to fight goblins, leveling up their stats. When the nerds overheard them plotting inappropriate plans involving the class rep, they immediately went to the vice rep and explained everything. Upon hearing this, the vice rep decided it was time to level up herself. She approached the delinquents who had bad intentions for her, but in an instant, the tables turned. The delinquents were on the ground, immobilized. The nerds used their seal ability to block the delinquents' charm skill, forcing them to flee the camp. However, not long after, the delinquents launched a surprise attack, setting the camp ablaze and injuring others. With everything in ruins, the class rep and others blamed the nerd group for the disaster. Only the vice rep defended them, but as the minority, the nerds decided it was safer to leave. After hearing their story, Haruka admired their bravery and threw them a mushroom feast in celebration. The next morning, Haruka wished the nerds good luck on their journey, but they asked him to join them. Despite wanting to, Haruka, in a heroic manner, declined, explaining he couldn't because of his cursed state. After they left, Haruka decided to visit the other camps, only to find them deserted. As he explored, he sensed footsteps nearby. Activating his optical view ability, he saw the class reps in the distance. When they spotted him, Haruka quickly tried to hide, but they chased after him. Eventually, Haruka stopped when he heard them pleading for his help. The girls explained that they wanted to apologize to the nerd group. Suspicious, Haruka questioned their motives. The girls then began to cry, asking for his help to become stronger. Checking their stats, Haruka was stunned. They were so focused on basic survival, like walking and worrying, that they hadn't leveled up at all. As Haruka considered backing out of the situation, the class vice rep and his crush suddenly appeared. Lost in thought, Haruka hadn't noticed her until she shouted to get his attention. Meanwhile, the delinquent group sat around a campfire, plotting to return to the old camp, their intentions as vile as ever. Once the class rep catches Haruka's attention, he panics. He doesn't know what to say or even know her name, despite being in the same class since elementary school. The class rep, always nice to him, can't believe he never bothered to learn her name. A moment later, the other girls show up, having followed the class rep's orders. The popular girls stand behind Haruka, looking like they're sharing one brain brain cell. Class rep assumes Haruka did something to them. He wants to claim innocence, but his skill unintentionally turned the girls into his servants, and he's clueless about fixing it. Haruka tries to explain without sounding guilty, but no one believes him, so he gives up and turns to leave. However, class rep forces him to stay to check on Shimazaki. Fortunately, a little shaking frees her from the subjugation. She tells the class rep she's fine, and Haruka thinks he's free to go, but the class rep insists on finding out how the subjugation happened. While the girls talk, Haruka, left by a tree, starts practicing his magic out of boredom. Haruka plans to expand his house, but messes up trying to build a basement, accidentally burying himself neck deep in the ground. He's stuck until the class rep finds him, shocked to see him buried after she only asked him to wait a few minutes. She helps him out, apologizing for not trusting him. As Shimazaki explained, he was just trying to help. Haruka doesn't recall offering to help everyone, but the girls are already thanking him, so he goes along with it. Haruka wants to head home, but the girls get mad because he's leaving them in the wilderness without help. Class rep realizes Haruka has a home and asks about it. He explains he built it in his spare time. The class rep is amazed he built a house while they struggled to set up camp, and the other girls are equally impressed. They ask how many people it can hold, and he says about 200 if he moves some furniture and empties the pool. Class rep is jealous but politely asks if they can stay the night as they're homeless. Haruka freaks out. Hosting a whole class of girls is overwhelming but calms down and leads them to his house. Thanks to his skills, he knows the way through the woods. Once they arrive, the girls are amazed by his house's grandeur, thrilled to have a roof and indoor plumbing after so long. As soon as Haruka mentions there's a bath, the girls frantically strip down and run towards it, right in front of him. Overwhelmed, Haruka sets up a tent to be alone and prepares to sleep. Just then, the class rep enters, wanting to talk. She thanks him for his help, explaining that after the nerds and gym bros left, the girls have been struggling, but now, after a bath and a good meal, spirits are high again. Still, the class rep feels she's failed as a leader since she couldn't help the class alone. Haruka thinks she's being too hard on herself. She's been keeping the girls together. While she worries they just got lucky not running into monsters, Haruka reminds her that the nerds were well prepared for this situation, unlike her. Considering it's her first isekai experience, she's done well. The class rep feels better after hearing him out, though she still feels insignificant compared to Haruka's achievements. Wishing him good night, she heads back inside, but Haruka knows he won't be able to sleep after everything. The next morning, Haruka is woken by one of the girls, asking him to get up for breakfast. He groggily tries to sleep more, but she crawls on top of him, insisting he gets up. Reluctantly, Haruka asks what's for breakfast, expecting mushroom soup again. To his surprise, it's fish today, and in his excitement, he accidentally headbutts the girl. Though she's slightly hurt, Haruka couldn't care less. He's thrilled to finally eat something other than mushrooms. Class rep can't understand why Haruka is so excited about eating fish when he's lived next to the river all this time. Haruka admits he's just terrible at fishing. Curious how the girls manage it, he asks to see their method. Class rep agrees and takes Haruka to the river with a girl who has lightning magic. She electrocutes the water to catch fish, impressing Haruka. He begs her to do it again, and though she's reluctant, she agrees. Before she can throw the lightning ball, Haruka seals it with his packing skill, tossing it in the river to catch more fish, and even acquires lightning magic in the process. Class rep is shocked, so Haruka explains that by using his packing skill on elements, he can gain that kind of magic. While useful, Haruka still doesn't find it impressive, as he thinks his other skills are mostly useless. While the girls play in the river, Haruka sits with the class rep and asks what they plan to do next. She says they'll head for the nearest village to catch up with the nerds, but they need to level up first. Haruka offers to help them train. A bit later, the girls gather in the forest, and Haruka asks their current levels. They tell him they're all above level 15, leaving Haruka depressed since he's still only level 7. Doubting they even need his help, he gives them a test, pitting them against level 6 kobolds. The girls think it'll be easy, but are quickly defeated. The kobolds actually fought back. They regroup to rethink their strategy, and for some reason the meeting takes place in Haruka's magic tent. Haruka's tent expands to fit everyone, though he's still confused why they chose it. After some deliberation, the girls head back out, determined not to lose this time. Haruka appreciates their motivation, but doubts they'll win. Once they leave, the girl from earlier approaches Haruka to apologize for testing him that morning. She wanted to see if he'd take advantage of the situation. Now that he's given them shelter, food, and help with fighting, she feels she can trust him and promises to wake him with breakfast again tomorrow. Haruka is glad she trusts him, though he only knows her as Fish Girl. The next morning, Haruka happily accepts breakfast from Fish Girl. However, he overhears the girls planning to fight the kobolds for revenge. Before they leave, class rep stops them, insisting they train first or they'll lose again. She suggests starting with goblins, but the fight doesn't go well. Despite the loss, some girls still think they're ready, while others pretend to be sick to avoid fighting. Haruka doubts they'll succeed, but to his surprise, the girls learn from their mistakes and work together to defeat the kobolds. Class rep congratulates them, and Haruka is relieved, thinking he can return to his loner life. But class rep thanks him for agreeing to join them on their journey to the village. Haruka knows he never agreed, but she's insistent, so he gives in. A little later, they've packed and are ready to leave the forest. Haruka reminds them to stay alert for dangers. Meanwhile, in another part of the forest, one of the boys from their class is running for his life. He trips over a rock, is cornered by his attacker, and gets strangled to death on the spot. Haruka, alongside the class reps, moves cautiously through the dense forest, intent on finding a way to defend themselves against the looming delinquent group. As they advance, an orc suddenly appears in their path. Without a second thought, Haruka steps forward, eager to take it down. Confidently, he tells the others to watch and learn from his combat skills. But as the orc charges, Haruka disappears, hiding behind a tree. It dawns on him the nerds were right, orcs can't be harmed by physical attacks unless magic is used. Haruka quickly pulls up his status screen. Revealing his impressive magic arsenal, he commands all 4 elements: water, air, earth, and fire. As the orc charges again, Haruka expertly dodges each blow. He leaps onto its back, striking it hard with his wooden sword, sending it crashing to the ground. The girls silently glance at him, a reminder that maybe magic would have been smarter. Another orc soon emerges. This time, Haruka doesn't falter, he summons fire magic, easily defeating it. He's surprised by how effective the low-level spell is, but the class rep quickly praises him as the strongest among them. As night falls, the group sets up camp around a bonfire. Haruka uses his earth magic to lay traps around the perimeter. Pulling out a map, he checks their next destination, quietly admiring his contact lenses and villager skills. Suddenly, an emergency alert flashes on his screen, urging him to investigate. As Haruka watches from the shadows, he spots figures emerging from the dark woods. Initially, he fears it's the delinquents targeting the class rep girls, but as they come closer, he sighs in relief it's just the jocks from his class. The boys casually greet him, while the class reps, hidden in the trees, try to listen in on their conversation. Haruka immediately starts teasing them, asking if they're chasing after the girls. Annoyed, the boys quickly clarify that they're actually looking for him. Curious, Haruka asks why they're avoiding the girls. The boys reveal they can't trust anyone, hinting at something far scarier than puppeteer or charm skills. Haruka's mind races and lands on the only explanation: the hijack skill. The boys confirm his suspicion, explaining that while the delinquent group hyped up puppeteer and charm, they never mentioned hijack. This means someone else holds that dangerous ability. Haruka playfully surprises them by claiming he has the hijack skill himself, but the boys shrug it off, saying they're fine with that. Grinning, Haruka admits he was bluffing, he only has the subjugate skill. Relieved, the boys tell Haruka they need to go spy on the delinquents, but ask him to pass on their apologies to the girls. As they leave, Haruka jokingly suggests they team up with goblins since they're equally dumb. On day 17, Haruka tells the group to gear up as they venture deeper into the forest. He notices the group acting oddly, and the class rep finally approaches him, mentioning Kakizaki and the jocks. Haruka interrupts, delivering the boys' apologies. Surprisingly, she apologizes to him in return. Sensing something's wrong, Haruka presses for the truth. Hesitant, she struggles to say it, but Haruka calmly tells her she's been hijacked. Stunned, she demands to know how Haruka could possibly know her secret. After all, hijack is a skill that lets its user steal another's abilities by taking their life. Unfazed, Haruka calmly explains he's not scared and neither were the nerds. They sealed the delinquent group's puppeteer and charm skills but left hers untouched. They were fine with the class rep having the hijack skill, and so is Haruka. Overwhelmed, the class rep tears up. Haruka panics and rushes off, insisting he didn't do anything to make her cry. Despite that, she thanks him, grateful for his support. After covering some ground, the group takes a well-deserved break. Ever opportunistic, Haruka starts selling juice at bargain prices some girls offer. Other favors for juice, while others tease him for charging money, scolding him for treating their friends like customers. As they resume their journey, Haruka spots a riverside and assigns the class rep some tasks while he scouts ahead. She insists on joining, but before she finishes her sentence, Haruka bolts off at full speed. Using his magic wrap and weight magic, Haruka lightens himself, easily climbing trees and leaping higher for a better view. Just as he starts to enjoy the moment, his weight magic fails, and he crashes through the trees, hitting every branch on the way down. His HP drops to a worrying 10%. When the class rep asks about his injuries, Haruka casually replies that he fell from the sky. She scolds him, unsurprised. Trying to shift the mood, Haruka reveals he picked berries for juice, exciting one of his fangirls enough to give him a tight hug. The next day, they continue scouting, finding their lost classmates, battling more orcs, and enjoying some river time before emerging from the forest into a vast open field. Haruka becomes more vigilant, aware they're now in plain sight of lurking monsters or foes. Opening his status window, he notices a new skill, airwalk. Naturally, he tests it. Walking on air to the class rep's amazement, he informs her he'll scout from above. While surveying, Haruka spots a group surrounded by monster wolves. Haruka lands back down and informs the class rep about the situation. She immediately wants to help, but Haruka hesitates, warning that just because they're under attack doesn't mean they're the good guys. The class rep insists they should fight the wolves anyway. Reluctantly, Haruka agrees but decides to scout the area alone first. Using his magic wrap, weight magic, and grand magic, he conjures a tornado to propel himself forward. Unfortunately, the wind from the tornado sweeps the class rep into the air with him, clinging to his cloak. They crash into the wolves, taking them all out in one chaotic landing. The group surrounded by the wolves is stunned by the sudden rescue. They introduce themselves as Ofter, the leader, and Gaytek, his companion. Haruka asks how they ended up fighting wolves. Ofter explains that they took an extermination request from the Adventurers Guild to earn some cash. Haruka waits for the rest of his classmates to catch up while the class rep remains unconscious from the crash. As Ofter's party collects their scattered belongings, Haruka offers them some grilled mushrooms. They're shocked these rare stamina-boosting mushrooms are a delicacy in their town. Even one of Ofter's party members quickly recovers after eating them. However, Haruka can't help but feel annoyed at the sight of such unattractive men socializing with beautiful Alfs. When the class rep finally wakes up, she notices Haruka's irritation and raises an eyebrow. Soon, the other class girls arrive, equally stunned by the sight of the elegant Alf girls. Ofter then leads Haruka and the group toward Omi City. The girls, excited, rush ahead to the city gates and eagerly enter. Meanwhile, the delinquent group continues to track the girls. One of the nerd boys they had previously trapped suggests they unseal their skills before confronting the girls again. So the delinquents decide to hunt down the nerds first. Unbeknownst to them, the dumb jocks from earlier are watching their every move from behind the trees, fully aware of their plans. As Haruka and the girls enter the lively town, the bustling market immediately captivates the group. The vibrant colors and lively sounds are a feast for the senses, but Haruka, he's less than thrilled. This chaos doesn't suit his lone wolf nature. While the girls explore in awe, the class vice rep takes charge, rallying the group with clear direction. Haruka, feeling his responsibilities have come to an end, quietly steps back, ready to fade into the background. Just as he plans his quiet escape, the vice rep calls him out, snapping him back to reality. Her plan is straightforward: visit the Adventurers Guild to sell their loot, register as members, find a place to stay, and maybe even dig up information about their missing nerdy classmates. At the Adventurers Guild, Haruka notices the unfriendly stares of rough-looking adventurers, but before anything escalates, Ofter pulls him aside. The guild boss wants a word. Haruka reluctantly steps into the intimidating office, bracing for the worst. Instead, he's met with gratitude. The boss personally thanks him for saving Ofter's party, leaving Haruka completely stunned. After the meeting, Haruka decides to sell his collection of magic crystals. The shopkeeper's jaw drops when he sees the stash. It's far from ordinary. Haruka is told to return the next day for proper valuation, adding a twist to his already eventful day. Later, the girls return from their registration, urging Haruka to do the same. For once, he steps into the registration room with a hint of excitement, but his hopes are dashed when the attendant informs him he needs to be level 10 to register. As a solo adventurer, the bar is even higher, level 20. Feeling trapped by his lone wolf nature, Haruka is saved from despair when the vice rep steps in, vouching for him and taking responsibility for the group. That night, the guild arranges lodging for the group, but the rest stop turns out to be a love hotel. While the others settle in without much fuss, Haruka lies awake, longing for the peace of the woods. By morning, the group gathers for breakfast as the vice rep reassures everyone about the safety and opportunities in the city. Haruka heads back to the guild to collect his crystal payment, only to hear it'll be issued in installments due to the guild's tight funds. His first payout, a staggering 8 million Eri, gives him plenty to explore the town. Gaytek, a member of Ofter's party, invites Haruka to a special place. To Haruka's surprise, it's an ancient relic shop. Hours fly by as he combs through treasures, eventually finding a magical necklace engraved with the number 7. The shopkeeper explains its unique power. It allows the wearer to use 7 magical items simultaneously. Haruka, thrilled by the possibilities, buys it. However, things take a chaotic turn when the vice rep storms in to hurry him along, only to witness Haruka accidentally fusing his relics into a single, extraordinary item worth 10 million AR. After some intense negotiations, they manage to buy it at a discount, cementing the deal as an unforgettable adventure. By day 20, Haruka is broke after his extravagant spree. With no cash but a hunger for more crystals, he plans a secret escape from the city. Unregistered and without a permit, he dons his invisibility cloak and fused hoodie and sneaks past his classmates. Just as he's scaling the city wall, a few classmates spot him, and his distraction causes him to stumble. After narrowly recovering, he notices one of the girls from the prankster squad is missing. Using his perception skill, he tracks her to a clothing stall, where she's trying on a rather risque outfit. The group arrives to chide her choice, and Haruka, unable to hold back, remarks that she's half-dressed. Her sharp glare forces him to backtrack with an awkward compliment. With his stealth mission ruined, Haruka knows Plana has failed spectacularly. Day 21 brings more drama. The class rep leads the group on their first mission, leaving Haruka out as punishment for his attempted escape. Undeterred, Haruka sneaks out again, successfully slipping past the city's watchful eyes. Outside the walls, he stumbles upon a group of thieves ambushing a carriage. Initially ignoring the scene, Haruka is forced to intervene when one thief targets him. With his staff in hand, he unleashes a barrage of fire bullets, quickly overwhelming the attackers. A girl from the carriage, introducing herself as Muriel, thanks Haruka for his bravery and requests his escort to her destination. Flattered, Haruka agrees. During their journey, he complains about the last town's inefficiencies, only to realize too late that Muriel is the daughter of the town's lord. As they approach Omiwai, the very town Haruka was fleeing, he is left speechless. Meanwhile, in the forest, tensions rise as two rival groups, the delinquents and the jocks, prepare for a fight. But before a blow is struck, a shadowy figure emerges, taking one down with lethal precision, leaving both groups shaken and wary of what's to come. The remaining delinquents charge at the mysterious figure, but one by one, they're taken down with ease. The dumb jocks, realizing they're no match, try to flee. Their escape is cut short when the figure leaps into their path, blocking the way with chilling precision. Meanwhile, back in Omuai, Muriel drags Haruka into her family's grand mansion, thwarting yet another escape attempt. As Haruka explores the lavish halls, he stumbles upon a portrait of the Lord and his wife. Before he can plan his next move, Muriel catches him mid-sneak. Frustrated, she leads him to an extravagant dinner table brimming with dishes he hadn't seen since his reincarnation. As Haruka devours the feast, Muriel thanks him again for saving her, handing him a bag of money and a VIP pass for unrestricted entry to and from the city. Lost in the food, Haruka barely notices her gratitude or the special outfit she wore just for him. On day 22, Haruka faces yet another scolding from the class rep for trying to escape. He brushes it off, claiming he's been invited to the Lord's manor. Suspicious, the vice rep insists he stay put, but as soon as the group leaves, Haruka grabs his cloak, arms himself, and slips a note behind, claiming he's gone to check on the dumb jocks. Using his VIP pass, he slips out of the city, eager to return to the wilds of the forest. The thrill of being back in nature is short-lived. A massive orc ambushes Haruka, but falls to a single strike. Soon after, Haruka spots a blood trail leading to his hideout. Following it, he finds the dumb jocks barely clinging to life. Using every healing potion he has, Haruka stabilizes them, and they immediately ask if the girls are safe. Haruka reassures them before night falls, and the jocks reveal the horrifying truth: the delinquents are dead. Their weapons stolen by the mysterious figure, who now has a new target, the class reps. The jocks explain the figure's motive: the vice rep, with his rare hijack skill, is the ultimate target. The mysterious figure let the jocks live, expecting them to warn the girls, but instead, they fled into the forest, ending up at Haruka's hideout. After some thought, Haruka sends the jocks back to the city to protect the girls, choosing to face the mysterious figure alone. Though they mock his chances, Haruka's unwavering resolve leaves them silent. Reluctantly, they agree to his plan and retreat. Back in the city, the class reps search for Haruka. The vice rep grows anxious, but his worry subsides when they find Haruka's note, though it doesn't erase the unease. At his hideout, Haruka reflects on his weaknesses. To prepare, he fends off a group of goblins drawn by the scent of blood. Dispatching them with ease, he faces their leader, the Goblin King. Using the battle as a chance to grow stronger, Haruka defeats the king, learning how to blend even his weakest skills into something powerful. His victory is short-lived. A Goblin Emperor, towering at level 50, appears far beyond Haruka's level 9 abilities. With a mix of skill and luck, Haruka lands a hit, but the Emperor retaliates, slashing his face and nearly knocking him out. Barely clinging to his resolve, Haruka charges back, weaving through the Emperor's attacks until a final, decisive blow brings it down. As dawn breaks, Haruka checks his stats level 11. Exhausted but determined, Haruka strategizes his next steps when the mysterious figure appears at the hideout's entrance. Lowering their hood, the figure reveals themselves to be Tanaka, the nerdy classmate who'd always been bullied by the delinquents. Meanwhile, the class reps spot the dumb jocks nearing the city walls. The vice rep rushes to meet them, only to learn Haruka stayed behind to face the mysterious figure alone. The revelation shakes him, leaving the group more anxious than ever. At the hideout, Haruka demands answers about the nerds' whereabouts, but Tanaka smirks, claiming they're dead. Fury boils within Haruka as Tanaka mocks him, calling him a loser not worth the trouble. Blocking Tanaka's path, Haruka raises his staff, declaring even losers have people they want to protect. Tanaka laughs coldly, his facade cracking as he unleashes a surge of rage. Let's see if he can protect anything. He sneers, launching the first strike in what promises to be an explosive showdown. Tanaka charges a devastating shockwave, hurling rocks as Haruka struggles to dodge. His metal skill momentarily freezes Haruka's movements, leaving him slower and opening Tanaka eagerly exploits. Crystal spikes erupt beneath Haruka, forcing him to evade side to side, his stamina waning. Before delivering the final blow, Tanaka sneers and asks, "When did you suspect me?" Haruka, unfazed, replies, "From the start. There had to be a reason you hung around those delinquents." Impressed, Tanaka admits he's been plotting all along. Despite the class rep's hijack skill, his metal skill has always given him an edge. Roots bind Haruka, and Tanaka conjures a fireball for the finishing move. But as it strikes, Haruka absorbs the magic, using his staff fused with magic-absorbing vines, emerging unscathed. Tanaka stumbles in shock as Haruka charges. Their weapons clash, Tanaka summoning blades and launching unpredictable attacks. Haruka defends valiantly but begins to falter under the onslaught. A brutal strike sends him crashing into the bushes. Gasping for breath, Haruka struggles to rise, only to be knocked back again. Sensing victory, Tanaka gloats, revealing his copycat skill, which lets him replicate others' abilities. His target all along, the class rep's hijack skill. With it, he plans to become unstoppable. Haruka reels at the revelation but doesn't give up. He realizes Tanaka never uses the same skill twice. Smirking, Haruka taunts, "There's a limit, isn't there? You can't copy skills indefinitely." Anic flashes across Tanaka's face, and Haruka presses on, dodging relentlessly to force Tanaka to exhaust his arsenal. Desperate, Tanaka swings wildly, summoning a laser beam to push Haruka back. Even with his secret exposed, he remains a formidable foe. Breathing heavily, Tanaka activates his death skill, confident it will end the fight. Haruka collapses and Tanaka laughs, declaring victory. But as Tanaka turns to leave, Haruka speaks, "It's rude to step on someone's head without apologizing." Shocked, Tanaka demands to know why Haruka is still alive. Haruka calmly explains resistance skill, maxed out luck, and collapsing just for fun. Frustration boiling over, Tanaka questions how Haruka is moving after being frozen by his metal skill. With a sly grin, Haruka reveals he's been using his puppet skill to control his own body externally, rendering Tanaka's restraints useless. "You call these trash skills? I call them unstoppable." Out of options, Tanaka unleashes his remaining energy in a flurry of slashes, but Haruka deflects each one with ease. As Tanaka grows weaker, Haruka counters every move, inching closer to victory. In a desperate final attack, Tanaka remotely controls a sword to stab Haruka from behind, believing he's finally won, but Haruka retaliates with a crushing blow from his staff, knocking Tanaka off balance. Overconfidence in his copycat skill blinds Tanaka to Haruka's adaptability. With one decisive strike, Haruka ends the battle. Severely wounded and drained, Haruka nearly collapses. Just then, the nerds arrive, catching him before he hits the ground. They joke couldn't wait for backup. Class rep had found them leaving the dungeon and informed them of Haruka's fight. Together, they escort him back to the city, where the girls greet him with relief. Plans for a celebratory feast are made, and even the leader of the jocks silently daps Haruka in approval. As the group heals, old tensions fade. The popular girls apologize to the nerds for past behavior, and the classmates finally come together. Haruka, however, slips away, longing for his quiet life in the woods. Class rep intercepts him at the gate, exasperated. "Where do you think you're going?" Haruka sheepishly replies, "Just a walk," she sighs, relenting. "Fine, but don't think you're disappearing again. We're all watching you now." As Haruka chuckles awkwardly, the girls wave him over, suggesting a bath at the inn. Haruka lets himself be dragged along, finally allowing himself to enjoy the peace of their newfound camaraderie. A dark, fog-filled hallway stretches endlessly. At its far end, a lich girl stands motionless, her faintly glowing eyes piercing through the haze. Before Haruka can react, everything fades to black. He wakes with a start, gasping for air, drenched in sweat. The vision of the lich lingers in his mind, unnerving and vivid. Exhausted from his battle with Tanaka, Haruka walks through town. He watches as the nerd group, eager for another dungeon crawl, passes by, chatting excitedly. For Haruka, the battles were over. The nerds were safe, and Tanaka was defeated. He could finally return to his quiet life. But as he turns to leave, a chill courses down his spine. He turns to see the vice class rep standing behind him. Instinctively, Haruka kneels and apologizes for his reckless actions. She acknowledges his efforts, but scolds him for putting others at risk. "You were lucky this time, but luck runs out," she warns, walking away. Her words weigh on him, sparking a determination to change perceptions. Haruka heads toward the dungeon, hoping to retrieve rare items that could prove his worth. Far away, at the Emperor's castle, Muriel serves tea to her father, who's preoccupied with dwindling merchant traffic and rising monster attacks. Suddenly, a soldier bursts in with grave news: a monster swarm is advancing toward the town, leaving nearby villages in ruins. Muriel rushes to the guild, relaying the news to the guildmaster. The revelation sends shockwaves through the hunters. Preparations begin immediately. The vice class rep steps forward, requesting to join the fight, and the guildmaster consents. Amid the chaos, she notices Haruka is missing. Meanwhile, Haruka, on his way to the dungeon, encounters a horde of orcs. He swiftly defeats the lesser ones, but the appearance of an orc king at level 37 tests his limits. After a fierce battle, Haruka prevails and continues to the dungeon, unaware of the greater danger looming ahead. By nightfall, the guild is fortified, ready to face the horde. Just as doubts about the intel begin to surface, a figure emerges from the shadows. Weapons are drawn, but it's only Haruka, strolling casually. The vice class rep confronts him. He smirks and states, "No need to worry about the orcs. I already handled them." His nonchalant tone stuns the guild. The class rep reprimands him for taking unnecessary risks, but Haruka shrugs it off. Later, the guildmaster thanks him but warns of an impending monster stampede, urging him to avoid venturing alone. Haruka reluctantly agrees. On day 27, Haruka visits a relic shop to learn about items that raise affinities. The shopkeeper mentions the pheromone ring, rumored to be hidden beyond the dungeon's 50th floor, where deadly monsters dwell. Haruka's curiosity is piqued. As he leaves, he notices the nerd group eavesdropping. The group rushes to inform the vice class rep of Haruka's reckless plan. Together, they vow to stop him. Haruka reaches the dungeon and begins sprinting through its traps, focused on his goal, but his carelessness triggers a pitfall. He plummets, despite the vice class rep's desperate attempt to save him. Using earth magic, he cushions his fall, landing safely on what he realizes is floor 101, a place beyond known limits. Unable to climb out, Haruka activates his newly unlocked trap detection skill. He presses forward, his unease growing. Eventually, he discovers a door radiating immense mana. As he opens it, the oppressive energy nearly overwhelms him. Inside, the lich girl from his vision stands, her presence more terrifying than imagined. Haruka appraises her level 100. His shock is quickly replaced by resolve. Gripping his wooden staff, he charges. The Lich moves faster than he can follow, effortlessly blocking his strikes. Haruka attacks again, but she counters with the same ease, her hypersonic speed leaving him reeling. Despite the overwhelming odds, Haruka refuses to back down. His determination grows with every failed strike. This isn't just a fight for survival, it's a chance to overcome his limits. Meanwhile, the class group reaches floor 47, exhausted but resolute. A debate about turning back arises, but the fish girl rallies their spirits. Haruka wouldn't give up on us, so we won't give up on him, she declares. United, they press on. Back with Haruka. Every swing of his staff is met with an effortless parry. His appraisal skill fails to decipher the Lich's true powers, leaving him in the dark. But deep within, Haruka knows he must find a way to outwit her speed and devastating power. As the Lich's glowing eyes lock onto him, Haruka takes a deep breath. He whispers to himself, trash skills or not, this isn't over. Thanks for joining me on this adventure. If you enjoyed the journey, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more epic content. Let me know what you think in the comments. And don't miss out on the next video. There's always more fun, surprises, and challenges ahead. Until next time, stay awesome and keep exploring.